Ron Artest, therapist's favorite client. Ron Artest didn't just play basketball. He brought the entire Bronx with him. Every game, every whistle, every post-game interview felt like a live crime scene. He wasn't a player. He was an emotional support riot. And the league, they had no idea what the hell to do with him. This is a man who once applied for a job at Circuit City during his rookie season, not for the money, but to get the employee discount. That's not poverty. That's side quest behavior. But on the court, he was a certified nightmare, elite defender, took your soul and asked for seconds, played like every game was a child custody hearing. Then came the malice at the palace, and the league's PR team hit DEF-CON 7. A fan throws a drink. Artist reacts like the Kool-Aid man on cocaine, jumps into the stands like he's in a WWE Royal Rumble. Chairs flying, fists flying. Jermaine O'Neal slides across the floor like it's Fast and Furious. Indiana edition. And still lands the punch. Reggie Miller's legacy takes collateral damage just for existing, so the NBA drops the hammer, suspends Artest for the rest of the season. 86 games. That's not a suspension. That's a damn parole hearing. Most guys would have faded into obscurity, but Ron, he rebrands, changes his name to Meta World Peace, wins a ring with the Lakers, and in the most iconic flex of all time. Thanks, his therapist on national TV. But the league, they never really forgave him, because Ron didn't just cause chaos, he exposed how fake the league's whole image of order really was. He wasn't a thug, he was a mirror. A reminder that behind all the scripted TNT halftime shows and Gatorade ads, the NBA was one bad night away from going full Fight Club. Ron wasn't too crazy for the NBA, he was just too real to be managed. Gilbert Arenas, the Glock in the locker. Gilbert Arenas wasn't just a scorer. He was an entire glitch in the simulation. 1 part Steph Curry, 2 parts Dennis the Menace, and the rest, uncut chaos. They called him Agent Zero, but he played like the main character in an R-rated anime. Deep range, no conscience, no coach could control him, and definitely no HR department. Let's talk about the time he dropped 60 on Kobe in front of Jack Nicholson, turned around before it went in, and said, "Tell Phil Jackson to call a timeout." That's not confidence. That's a war crime in 3 states. But you can't mention Gilbert without mentioning the locker room shootout that turned the NBA into GTA Online. In 2010, Gil gets into a gambling beef with teammate Javaris Crittenton. So naturally, like any rational adult, he brings 4 guns into the locker room, lays them out like it's a pawn shop display, and tells Crittenton to pick one. Let's stop. Freeze frame. Cue the SpongeBob narrator. And this is the moment Gilbert Arenas fucked up his entire career. The NBA suspended him indefinitely. Sponsors evaporated. Teammates distanced themselves like he had contagious stupidity. He went from averaging 28 points per game to getting escorted out of the building by security, like he was trying to trade shooting drills for actual shooting. And here's the twist. He was still good. Dude could still hoop. Even after the scandal, even after the injuries, he could still give buckets to half the league. But the NBA didn't care, because Gil didn't just cross a line. He painted a new one with bullets. He wasn't just too real for the league. He was a reminder that the NBA is fine with drama, as long as it's scripted. And Gil, he improvised everything, including the felony. The saddest part? If you strip away the antics, the jokes, the heat maps and hijinks, Gilbert Arenas was one of the most entertaining guards of his era. But the league doesn't reward wild cards. They bench them, blacklist them, and memory hole the footage. Gil wasn't misunderstood. He was just never built for a league that prefers its stars prepackaged and background checked. Latrell Sprewell, choke first, ask later. Some players let their game do the talking. Latrell Sprewell let his hands do the choking. This man didn't just go off the rails. He built his own damn track and dragged the league behind him. Let's rewind to 1997. Warriors practice. Coach PJ Carlesimo tells Sprewell to put a little more mustard on his passes. A normal coaching cue, right? Sprewell hears that and decides, you know what this needs? Physical assault. So he walks up to his head coach and wraps his hands around the man's neck. Not enough? He comes back a few minutes later to finish the job. That's not competitive fire. That's a full-on felony with a follow-up combo. The league loses its mind. He gets suspended for 68 games, the longest non-drug-related suspension in NBA history at the time. The Warriors void his contract. Public opinion turns him into the poster child for everything wrong with 90s athletes. But the thing is, Sprewell could ball, like really ball. 4-time All-Star, All-NBA defense, relentless on both ends, played like his sneakers were on fire. And after all that drama, all that scandal, he comes back and helps the Knicks reach the NBA Finals in 1999. Becomes the heart of a gritty, blue-collar squad that almost pulls off the miracle. That would have been the redemption arc. That was the moment to rewrite the narrative. But Latrell doesn't do fairy tales. A few years later in Minnesota, the Timberwolves offer him a 3-year, $21 $21 million contract. Most guys would run to the bank. He turns it down and says with a straight face, "I have a family to feed." That line alone ended his career. Nobody else offered him a deal. He vanished. No farewell, no final season, just gone. The man choked a coach, revived a franchise, and then priced himself out of the league with one soundbite. Spruill was never built for politics. He didn't play nice, he didn't fake humble, and the NBA never forgave him for reminding them that behind all the highlight reels and marketing deals, some players were just too raw to sanitize. He wasn't just too real for the league, he was the league's worst PR nightmare with a crossover. Stephon Marbury, the NYC savior who went nuclear. Stephon Marbury was supposed to be the chosen one. Born in Brooklyn, bred in Coney Island, crowned by New York before he ever wore a Knicks jersey. He wasn't just another point guard, the street ball messiah, the hometown hero who was finally going to drag the Knicks out of hell and into the promised land. And for a minute, he looked like it. This man had 20 and 8 in his sleep. One of the best handles of the 2000s. Mid-range pull-up, cash, driving layup, unstoppable, swagger off the charts. But Stephon wasn't just a player, he was a personality. And that personality came with a nuclear self-destruct button built in. Everywhere he went, it got ugly. Minnesota gave him the keys and he immediately clashed with Kevin Garnett over who was Batman and who was Robin. Spoiler alert, Garnett won. He bails, heads to New Jersey. Same story. Numbers look good, results look empty. Ends up in Phoenix, implodes. Then finally, home, the Mecca, the Knicks. This was supposed to be it. The prodigal son returning to save the franchise. Instead, it turned into one of the most toxic runs in team history. He feuded with Larry Brown, feuded with Isaiah Thomas, got benched, got booed, and then got weird. Somewhere between being sidelined and being forgotten, Stephon decided he was done pretending. He started live streaming rants, crying on camera, and, no exaggeration, once ate Vaseline on a webcam while shirtless to soothe his throat. That's not a breakdown. That's a man going full performance art while his NBA career dissolves in real time. The Knicks sent him home. No trade, no minutes, just exile. A walking ghost with a max contract and nowhere to hoop. The league stopped calling. His name stopped trending. His highlight reels started looking like relics. So what did he do? He took his game to China and became a demigod. 3 championships, a statue, a museum, a musical. Beijing didn't just accept him, they worshipped him. Stephon Marbury became a living legend overseas, while the NBA treated him like a cautionary tale. Back home, they still talk about what he could have been. But in Beijing, he became everything they said he'd never be. Marbury wasn't a bust. He was a martyr, a player too stubborn, too emotional, too New York to play the league's image game. He didn't self-destruct. He just refused to edit himself, and the league hit unsubscribe. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. The protest before protesting was cool before Kaepernick, before kneeling, before social justice branding turned every court into a hashtag and every jersey into a message board. There was Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and the league had no idea how to handle him. Formerly Chris Jackson, he came into the NBA as one of the most electrifying guards of the early 90s. Dude had Tourette's, barely spoke above a whisper, and still cooked people like he had a cheat code. He once dropped 51 on Stockton and Malone. That's not just scoring, that's sacrilege. He had Steph Curry's range before Steph was out of diapers. He was unguardable, underrated, and unbothered until he decided to take a stand while the rest of the league was still sitting. In 1996, Abdul-Rauf refused to stand for the national anthem, not out of disrespect, but because he believed the flag was a symbol of oppression. The league? They panicked like he just pulled a fire alarm during David Stern's dinner. They suspended him, fined him, dragged him through the media meat grinder. Sponsors vanished. Teammates kept their distance. He eventually agreed to stand, but he'd bow his head and pray silently during the anthem. Even that wasn't enough. A few months later, he was traded to Sacramento. By the end of the following season, he was out of the NBA entirely. No injuries, no scandal, just a slow, quiet blackballing of a player who refused to fake patriotism for a paycheck.